Hello everybody, a really warm welcome to our Lent knit along for 2024. Lovely to have you with us. This year, this Lent, we're going to be knitting a triangular shawl during the whole of Lent. This will double up as a triangular lap blanket for those of you who aren't shawl type wearers. Hopefully you've seen the welcome letter already. That's giving details of how the knit along runs and a pattern for a little swatch, a little square swatch, which I recommend you try it with the yarn you're planning on using, just to check that you've got the right needle size, that the yarn sort of works well for the stitches we're going to be doing, which are all demonstrated in the swatch pattern. And also, if you're choosing to use two yarns, which is one of the options, that when you wash and block it, just check the two colours don't bleed into each other or run into each other. Check that the colours work well together. If you haven't seen the welcome letter, I'll ask Helen if she'll link in the description box below how you can get your hands on it. So in this video, I'm going to talk through how we start the shawl off on the first day. We're doing what's called a garter tab cast on. If you've done a garter tab cast on before, you won't need this. You'll know what you're doing. But if it's something you haven't come across before or need a refresher, then I will walk you through how we're going to do it for this shawl. And there are a couple of things I'll mention at the end if I remember. Right, so the garter tab cast on. I'm going to work from the instructions that you will have as part of your week 1 document. So this is the instructions for Ash Wednesday, which is day 1. And it says to first of all to cast on 3 stitches. So we're going to do that. So I've already done 1. Here we go. 2, and 3. So that's the 3 stitches we're going to work with. Now we need to knit 8 rows, 8 little diddly rows. 1, 2, 3. That's 1 row. Turn it round. This is all knit stitches. That's 2 rows. 3 rows. You will obviously be working with DK weight yarn and whichever needle works for you best, 3.75 or 4 millimeters. But I'm working this just on chunky yarn for now and larger needles, so that I can hopefully the stitches will be a bit more visible. I've lost track. This is 5. Oh dear, I can't talk and knit. Let's call that 6. It might be 7. Oh, it doesn't really matter. 7. Actually, I think that was 8. Let's pretend it's 8. It's not an exact science. Right. Okay, on the 8th row, carrying on with the instructions, on the 8th row, without turning the work as if to knit the row, so we're not going to turn it round and go back. Keep it that way. Rotate the work 90 degrees clockwise, so that way, and get rid of the other needle. We don't need that for now. For right-handed knitters, you'll now have the tab sticking out to the left of the needle, and the working yarn should still be at the back, coming out the top of the tab. So that's your working yarn. So this little kind of rectangle is the tab from the title, Garter tab cast on. Left-handed knitters, apologies, you'll obviously be around the other way. So the long edge of the rectangular tab should be at the top. So that's that. Using the bumps at the top of each row, so you can see these sort of purl bump rows, 1, 2, 3. Pick up and knit 3 stitches along this longer side of the tab. This will become the centre top of the shawl. So we're going to pick up and knit 3 stitches along here, and then we're going to do the same down there in a minute, all using the 1 needle. We don't need the other needle for this. So get hold of the yarn. So we can see these kind of bumps at the top of the rows. We're going to try and stick the needle through. As I said, it's not an exact science. Somewhere along here is fine. Well, the way I do it is. Right, so you've gone through that using the yarn from your right hand. This is called picking up and knitting. You have to do it quite slowly so it doesn't split the yarn. Oh, it's quite tight. There we go. So that's 1 stitch picked up, We're going to go with this middle column, so I'll go through there, and again, there we go. So that's stitch number 2, and then we need one more at the top of this row here. Oh, it's quite tight, so give it a bit of a wiggle. There we go, 6. So we've got the 3 we started with, the 3 we just picked up, and then finally turn the work clockwise again by 90 degrees, pick up and knit 3 more stitches along the original cast on edge. Ignore the tail, so we can see, hopefully you can see the 3 stitches you originally casted on. Just pick 3 sort of places you can pick up. There we go, 1, and halfway along that row, 2, so that's a bit tight, and finally, let's go in there, 3. Right, it's all very bunched up, quite tight, not particularly neat, but there we go. We should have, there we go, ignore this tail, this is going to be sewn in later. You should now have 9 stitches on your needle. Let's just check, 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. And the tab should now look like a little semicircle, which it does. Lovely. Swap the needle to your other hand. So now we're going to pick the other needle up and we're going to carry on the work. So that was the garter tab cast on. So we're going to work the setup row now. I'll work a few rows just to sort of see, so you can see how it gets started. Setup row is knit 3, 1, 2, 3, then purl 3, 1, 2, 3, and finish with knit 3, 1, 2, 3, and the stitches should begin to feel a bit more normal and less tight now. So I'll carry on. We've got row 1, so you've still got this little semicircle hanging down. Row 1, and odd numbers are going to be the front of the shawl as always, so this is going to be the top front of the shawl. Then we've done our knit 3, we've got yarn over and knit 1 times 3. So yarn over, bring the yarn there, knit 1, yarn over again, knit 1 again, that's 2 times, once more, oops, yarn over, knit 1, and then what have we got left? A yarn over and a knit 3. So we'll just count our stitches. So at the end of every row, all throughout the shawl actually, I've put stitch count so you can check that you've got the right number of stitches going on. So we should have 13, 2, 4, 8, 10, 12, 13, lovely. So that was row 1. Let's carry on row 2. So this is the back of the shawl, so we're going to have some purl stitches. Knit 3, 1, 2, 3, yarn over, knit 1. You can see the hole there from the yarn over on the previous row. Purl 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we've got knit 1, yarn over, knit 3. I'm going to row 3. So we've got knit 3 to start, 1, 2, 3. What have we got? Yarn over, knit 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then this is becoming this will be the central spine of the shawl. We've got a yarn over, knit 1, yarn over again, then knitting 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, yarn over, knit 3, okay, I'll do row 4. So if this is the back side, we'll do knit 3, 1, 2, 3. Where am I? Yarn over, knit 1. Then we've got purl 11. So the rows are getting longer as we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oopsies. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 and 11. And after the 11 we knit 1, yarn over, knit 3. Lovely. So hopefully you've kind of got into your stride by this point. Actually, I ought to check the numbers, didn't I? So we should have 21 stitches. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 21. That's convenient. Actually, what I'm going to do is just knit halfway along the next row, and then I can open it out and show you what the sort of shape that we're going to be creating. So row 5, we've got knit 3, yarn over, knit 7. Do I mean that? Yes. 1, 2, 3, 5, oopsies, 6, 7, and then this is the central spine. So what I'm going to do is just pull this down a bit. Not sure if you'll be able to see it, but this is, if we turn it up that way, this is the top of the shawl, which is going to grow out that way, and this is the central spine of the shawl coming down. You can't really see it, but once you've reached, certainly by the end of day 1, if you stop halfway along and turn it upside down and pull it out, you'll be able to see the triangle shape growing. So anyway, that's the Garter tab cast on, and you can see this is the original tab you started with, and it just sort of goes seamlessly into the rows as you carry on the rest of the shawl once you start with the proper rows. So that was the Garter tab cast on. While I'm here, I just wanted to talk through a couple of other things. While I'm here, there are a couple of other quick bits I'll mention. Due to the size of the project towards the end, you'll be working with upwards, I can't remember the exact number, upwards of 400 stitches in the last few days of the knit along. Obviously you'll only be doing 1 or 2 rows a day. You won't be on however many rows like you are at the beginning. The number of rows you knit throughout the knit along reduces, so that you should have roughly the same number of stitches each day. Because of the width of the shawl towards the end, you're going to need probably to use a circular needle just for the length of it, because I don't think there'll be straights long enough to fit 400 stitches on. So circular needle looks like this. You get it in the needle size that you want to knit the shawl on, so 3.75 millimeters or 4 millimeters, and probably a cable length of about 100 centimeters is great, or 120 centimeters. So obviously they're used in garments for knitting things in the round, but we're not knitting anything in the round here. We're just going to use them straightwards to backwards and forwards, knitting flat. It just gives you that extra length when you've got loads and loads of stitches sitting there. I'm just going to quickly talk about stitch markers. A lot of people have said they haven't used stitch markers before and they're not really sure. There's nothing particularly difficult about them. They sit on your knitting. Well, they sit on the needle itself between stitches, just to enable you to place them at various points when you're told to in the pattern, and so that you can count in chunks to make sure your stitch count is correct. Here are some of the different ones. If you're feeling fancy, you can get pretty ones, sort of silvery ones from you know, places that sell nice little stitch markers, or you can get ones with gems on them, but you really don't have to use anything fancy. Oh, here are some light bulb ones that Helen's got as well. They're quite cool. You can get loads of those at a time in a tin. If you haven't got any of those to hand, then these work just as well. These are just little loops of yarn, yarn about that long, 10 centimeters long, something like that, tied into a little loop, and they just do exactly the same job We've also had some of these kicking around at home, loom bands, or I think these are bands off my daughter's braces. She won't thank me for saying that, but anything like that that will fit over the needle and will just do the job. So I'll just show you. There are just two basic instructions for using, whoa, I'm all tied up, for using stitch markers. Firstly, you'll be instructed, I think it's row 17, you'll be instructed to place markers for the first time, and this happens at various points during the shawl. So to place a marker, after however many stitches you're told, you just pop it, after you've knitted however many, you pop it on the right needle. Left-handed people, sorry, reverse that, and then you just carry on your way, and then you can see it just sort of demarcates between the different sections of the knitting. The other thing, one final thing I'll demonstrate quickly, is a reminder of the basic lace stitches. There are no other fancy stitches in the whole of this project. It's just purely the two basic lace stitches, which is SSK and knit two together. So I'll do a quick reminder of those. SSK is a slip slip knit, it stands for. So there are different ways to do this, but the way I do it is I slip one stitch knitwise. So it means instead of going in as if you're purling, you're going as if you knit, but you're just slipping it to the other needle. Do the same again with a second stitch like that, and then you're going to knit these two together, so your yarn is still coming off the back of that one. So you put your left needle back in, but bring it towards the front, and then using your yarn we're going to knit these two together through the back loop around the back, and there we go. And that creates a decrease leaning in that direction. This is usually then followed by a yarn over, because with that you're decreasing from 2 stitches to 1, and then throwing in the yarn over means you're back up to 2 stitches, so the stitch number stays the same, but you've got a pretty little, or you will have a pretty little hole on the next row. And then what you also have, it's the same idea, it's still a decrease from 2 stitches to 1, but it leans in the other direction. This is slightly easier, so you usually is preceded by a yarn over, and then we have what's called a knit two together. So we're knitting exactly as you'd knit normally, but knitting 2 stitches together like that. There we go. And it would be more clear, more visible on the next row, but you can see these little holes that have been created, and then they're used obviously to build up motifs later on. Anyway, I think hopefully that's enough to give you a bit of an idea of what to expect from the pattern. Any questions? If you're in the Facebook group, obviously ask those in the chat there, and we'll do our best to answer them, or email on the email address you've got, and we'll help where we can. Many thanks. Take care.